Was this something you were reached out about, or did they reach out to you? I just had this strange feeling about the man behind the mask is done pretending. Behind the scenes of the Batman 2, Robert Pattinson just detonated a quiet war after he got the news that Warner Brothers allegedly shelved the sequel without telling him. And in the leaked memo sent to execs hours before his statement was a name no one expected to be the new Batman, the bombshell that shattered Hollywood. Robert Pattinson has just shattered the DC fan base in a moment that sent shock waves across Hollywood and left Warner Brothers scrambling behind closed doors. The man behind the cowl, Batman himself, has allegedly dropped out of the Batman 2. Yes, the sequel is an absolute chaos. And from what insiders are saying, the project has been either quietly shelved, internally scrapped, or stealth canceled. Why? Because Warner Brothers, in the middle of a desperate DCU overhaul, has completely lost its grip. And the worst part, Robert Pattinson found out last. According to whispers from industry insiders, the studio had no intention of telling him the truth until the last possible minute. Pattinson was under the impression that filming would begin at the end of the year. In fact, in a now chilling clip, eerily optimistic in hindsight, he told reporters they ended. But behind the scenes, a completely different conversation was happening. A conversation that would expose one of the most calculated betrayals in modern Hollywood history. Think about this for a moment. Here's an actor who transformed himself completely for this role, who spent months training, studying, becoming Bruce Wayne in every conceivable way, who delivered what many consider to be the definitive Batman performance of the modern era. And Warner Brothers, the studio that profited massively from his dedication, couldn't even give him the courtesy of honesty. Instead, they fed him lies, scheduled meetings that meant nothing, had him read scripts that would never be filmed, all while secretly planning his replacement behind closed doors. Insiders claimed the writing was on the wall for months. The film's production has been hit with unexplained delays, script rewrites, scheduling revisions, and budget concerns that nobody wants to discuss publicly. Sources close to the production describe a project in complete freefall, one-word apartment. Heads have been quietly reassigned. Pre-production meetings have been canceled without explanation, and key creative personnel have been told to pause their work indefinitely. And now, the most damning sign of all, Warner Brothers has quietly moved the release date of the Batman 2 to October 1st, 2027, citing script development and strike-related delays. But fans aren't buying it, and for good reason. Let me get this straight. We're going to get GTA 6 before the Batman Part 2. This is more than just a delay. This is a 5-year wait for a sequel to one of the most critically acclaimed Batman films in recent memory. A delay so long, it's raised every red flag imaginable. When you consider that most successful superhero sequels are greenlit within months and in production within 2 years, a 5-year gap isn't development time, it's abandonment. To put this in perspective, Marvel released 3 entire phases of interconnected films in less time than Warner Brothers is asking fans to wait for a single Batman sequel. The Fast and Furious franchise has released 4 movies in the time since the Batman hit theaters. Even notoriously slow developing projects like Avatar sequels move faster than this. This isn't just a delay, it's a cancellation in slow motion. And yet, somehow, Warner Brothers is still trying to spin it. They've released carefully worded statements about taking time to craft the perfect story. They've had Pattinson give interviews where he's clearly been coached on what to say and what not to reveal. They've trotted out executives to promise that the film is still a priority, all while taking actions that suggest the exact opposite. In another clip, Pattinson tries to remain upbeat when asked about the project, saying he's excited and that the script is cool. But watch his body language. Listen to the carefully chosen words. Notice how he gives vague answers about specific details. The tension is written all over his face. The PR answers, the vague responses, the lack of anything concrete. It's the kind of press language you use when you're not allowed to say the truth. When your publicist has given you a script and your contract prevents you from saying what you really think. This is an actor who, in interviews for the first film, spoke passionately and specifically about his character choices, his research process, his collaboration with Matt Reeves. Now, he sounds like he's reading from a corporate memo because the truth would ignite a firestorm. And what is that truth? That Warner Brothers has already moved on, that they've made their decision that Robert Pattinson's Batman, despite being the most successful DC film in years, is being systematically erased to make room for a more manageable version of the character. So, let's ask the hard question. Why is Warner Brothers sabotaging its most grounded successful DC property? To understand that, you have to look at the seismic power shift inside DC Studios. Ever since James Gunn and Peter Safran took over as co-CEOs, everything has changed. The entire philosophy, the creative approach, the long-term strategy. And while they've publicly promised to keep Reeves' Batman as a standalone Elseworlds project, their actions tell a completely different story. Their real plan is increasingly obvious, and it's terrifying for anyone who loved the Batman. The new DCU doesn't have room for two Batman. More specifically, it doesn't have room for a Batman they can't control. Pattinson's Batman exists in a world that was created before Gunn's regime. It operates under creative agreements that were signed with previous leadership. It represents a vision of the character that doesn't align with the broader brand synergy that the new DC Studios is trying to achieve. And most importantly, it's successful enough to compete with and potentially overshadow whatever new Batman they're planning to introduce. Think about it from a corporate perspective. If you're trying to launch a new Batman in a new universe, and there's already a massively popular Batman operating in parallel, which one are audiences going to choose? Which one are they going to demand more of? Warner Brothers has already found their answer. They're going to eliminate the choice entirely. They've already cast a new Batman for the upcoming Brave and the Bold movie. They're building a new canon, a new Gotham, and a new face of the franchise. And Robert Pattinson, despite his critical success, despite his box office numbers, despite his passionate fan base, doesn't fit into that long-term vision.